I'm Tyler here with my brother Ryan, and today we are going to break down the 2023 NFL season for the Jacksonville Jaguars and also preview the 2024 offseason for them with their picks, key free agents, overall team needs. But before we do that, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to get notified whenever we create new content. We have a bunch of 3-round and 7-round mock drafts coming up for the Jaguars leading up to the 2024 NFL draft. So you're not going to want to miss those. So be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell. Ryan, let's pull up our slide here. So Jacksonville, it was kind of poetic. They last year they did what Tennessee did to them this year. Tennessee was falling hard in the second half of the year. Jacksonville came in, swooped in, beat them in the last game of the season. But I will say this time though, Tennessee didn't win the division. But Jacksonville had a very similar fall to grace. I think a lot of it was similar to what happened in Tennessee. Man, they were just decimated on injuries, especially too when Trevor Lawrence kept going down and he was banged up for the longest of times. So they had some inconsistency on the offensive line with Cam Robinson missing time early on, then he got hurt. So then now Walker Little, Anton Harrison, but then they also had injuries, same with the injuries on the interior offensive line as well. And I think as we'll kind of see here, I know some people have commented overall on the overall defense. Like I think they need help in the secondary. While I think they have a decent pass rush, a decent defensive line. They need to increase their sacks in the pass rush. So I can see their point there. But I feel like their secondary wasn't particularly that phenomenal. But that being said, though, they only had 40 sacks on the season, so maybe it'd help out the secondary if they had a better pass rush. So, what kind of direction do you think the Jacksonville Jaguars need to go from here, both offensively and defensively?
Yeah, I really think they need to beef up this offensive line, especially at the tackle spots. Cam Robinson came into the season suspended. Walker Little ended up playing a lot of left tackle. They did draft Anton Harrison in last year's draft class, and he played some. But all in all, I just think better offensive line play is going to help this team out a lot. Also, Christian Kirk being injured definitely hurt this offense a lot.
Probably the biggest injury. Probably the biggest one.
And then Calvin Ridley, I'll be really interested to see if they end up re-signing him or not. I do think that it is their trade with the Falcons. So if they don't re-sign him, they owe the Falcons a third. If they do re-sign him, they owe the Falcons a second. With this receiver class, I almost would favor just trading the third and letting him walk in free agency. And I know we'll get to all the free agent stuff here in a little bit. And then getting a guy like an A.D. Mitchell or a Tez Walker or a Keon Coleman, one of these bigger X wide receivers, because I think you have Christian Kirk as your slot kind of explosive possession guy. You have Zay Jones, your Z receiver. Calvin Ridley is that outside guy, but to me, he's not quite as physical as some of the guys that are in this draft class that I think would fit better. And we all saw not Marvin Harrison, who was the Marvin Jones. We all saw what Trevor Lawrence did with Marvin Jones in his rookie season, who was actually one of his more favorite targets. And then I think you look back even further at Trevor Lawrence's Clemson days. Justin Ross was his top target for some of the years that he was there. And that, again, is the 6'4", 215, 220 style X receiver that I think Trevor Lawrence favors. Sacks, they were about average, giving up 41. And they did have 30 turnovers, so definitely finding ways to protect the ball better is going to be crucial. So defensively, they did just invest in an edge rusher at first overall, but it hasn't really translated into sacks, only getting 40 on the season. And then turnovers, they do get a decent bit of turnovers, but I do think part of that was just playing in a weaker division. And then they have a good run defense, but passing wise, they were a little lackluster this year as well. So
actually, I would say they had opportunities to go up against 3 rookie quarterbacks in their division. Depending on when they all played. So
they played Anthony Richardson in week 1. I know that.
Yeah, and then I think they might have played them actually in week. No, I think Gardner Minshew was playing by then because they played them pretty close together earlier.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, this just was not the season overall. Injuries, I mentioned the Christian Kirk injury overall. I think that there's still some areas that they need to improve on the defensive side of the ball. Also, too, though, they did fire Jim Caldwell and their defensive coordinator and a lot of their defensive staff. So I think also we've definitely seen that if you have the difference between a good and bad defensive coordinator. As a Falcons fan, I know. So there's a big difference in overall scheming, how they prep overall, and how they prepare the team week in and week out. So I think that played a big factor into that. So moving on, though, now to the 2024 offseason. They have $27.5 million in cap space here, and they can free up a little bit more. Some noticeable guys that we talked a lot about their pass rush, whether that was the issue or whether it was a weaker secondary. Josh Allen, their top edge rusher, is out for the is out on free agency, so they will want to see if they want to resign him. And let me pull up his exact stats here. So we already talked about Calvin Ridley, which I want to get to in a second, because also too I've thought about that as it will directly affect the team here. I would say right now they probably are going to re-sign Josh Allen. He's 26 years old and he had 17 and a half sacks on the season.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and then we mentioned
that's
Walker.
probably they'll probably franchise tag him.
Yeah, and so then we mentioned Trayvon Walker. He had 10. So honestly, just seeing that kind of goes into a little bit more of what I was saying. But I think maybe it's secondary that they need to address here. They do have Trey Hendren that is joining free agency, and also Dewan Smoot as well as joining free agency. He only played 12 games, didn't start in any, and only had one sack. So if there's a guy that you could walk, maybe that's a guy you could walk. So moving on to overall team needs, interior offensive line to me is the big one. I like the combination of Cam Robinson, Walker Little, Anton Harrison. I think you can move some of those guys around. Probably get a tackle in the fourth round if you want to be specific. But in general, though, I would say as of right now, I don't think there's too many guys, maybe like a Troy Fatano that you can kick in. They could help out interior offensive line. But I think there's going to be a lot of guys in that second round. Also, definitely even in the third round as well, if you want to try and address there. So receivers, one, I think you need to address as well. Because there was somebody else also, too, I thought that was hitting free agency. Tim Jones, Jalen Moore. No, I thought there was somebody else that's more important. Jamal Agnew's also. So there are some guys that are in the receiver room that are moving on. But in my side from Calvin Ridley, and we've done mocks now where there's 8 to 9 guys going in the first round. Whether that's exaggerative or not, I will say I think we all could agree at least 7 receivers are probably going to come off in the first round. 3 with Rome Odunze, Malik Neighbors, and Marvin Harris Jr. Those guys are going to be top 10. Brian Thomas Jr., Troy Franklin, that's 5 right there. And then of the combination, I would say at least 2 guys are going to come off in like the playoff teams in the draft, of whether it be Keon Coleman, A.D. Mitchell, Xavier Worthy, Ladd McConkey, if Jalen Polk works his way up. Tez Walker's a guy you like if he works his way up. Let me see if there's anybody else that I even missed. And so I think that there'll be some more guys that work their way up. So I think that's something that Jacksonville will over these next couple months, because if they're now their pick's going to be 48. I mean, if all they're really going to have left, let's say every receiver starting at Jalen Polk, if we're just going based off Tankathon and where they're ranked on their big board, Ladd McConkey's 45. So hypothetically, he's gone at 45. So he won't even be available. Next guy available is going to be Jalen Polk. Then you have Tez Walker, Malachi Corley, Johnny Wilson. A lot of the top guys are gone.
Yeah.
So if you really need to address that receiver position, I almost think you need to sign Calvin Ridley, because it's possible that one of these young receivers is not going to be available. So you can ensure and have him, because he's still one of the, I would say, above average top receivers in the league. I think still when Christian Kirk was healthy on the field, that was a really good receiving duo. Now, that being said, though, it is a second round pick. But maybe I'm biased. I want the second round pick.
I think a guy like Brian Thomas Jr. would be fantastic here in this situation. That was a guy I didn't even say in the earlier segment.
I'm pretty sure I said it.
Okay.
But it's not a big deal. You said it now. I could see it if he's available at 17 and they want to go that route. And if they know he's going to be available at 17, I agree. I think he's going to be a great fit. Still, then pair him up with Christian Kirk, then you don't have to worry about contracts. It's going to be significantly cheaper. Then you still have your second round pick, and that's where you could take the best set interior offensive lineman,
which is
the board.
Where those guys are going to start to come off the board.
Troy Fatano technically is classified. He could be offensive tackle, interior offensive lineman. Same with Graham Barton. Cooper Beebe right now is the top-ranked pure interior offensive lineman. Jackson Powers-Johnson is another guy as well. Cedric Van Pran from Georgia. So Zach Zinter, he had the big injury. I think that's definitely going to play a big factor on when he's going to get taken. But a guy like Zach Zinter, if you want to take a shot on him, like in a late day 3, and no, he's going to probably miss his rookie year just for recovery. But he's a guy, he played really well at his time in Michigan. So there are some guys overall, and then that being said, we didn't even talk about secondary, didn't even talk about edge rushers. I think there's going to be edge rushing guys that they could potentially even move up for just a little bit in the first round if they want, or definitely secondary guys. They probably won't get the top secondary, but there will definitely be guys like Nate Wiggins, Kool-Aid McKinstry, Terry Arnold, Cooper DeJean. Those guys are going to be one of those guys is going to be available at 17 if that's the route that they want to end up going. So they have options to improve their team on their weaknesses. So, but I'd love to hear from Jacksonville fans on kind of what route they want to go to, especially too when it comes to the Calvin Ridley decision.
Yeah. So it'll be a really interesting offseason for the Jaguars. I'm looking forward to kind of seeing how it all plays out. I would love for them to let Calvin Ridley walk and preserve that second round pick, because as a Patriots fan, I need all the wide receivers on the market that I could get. So let's go ahead and wrap this video up here. If you guys have not already, please go ahead and like and subscribe. Leave a comment down below on what you thought of the Jags 2023 season, and what do you think that they're going to do going forward into the 2024 offseason. Who do you want them to draft in the first round? How do you want them to handle the Calvin Ridley situation? Let us know down below. And other than that, we will see you guys next time.